Welcome to the Lab Report, a new series produced by Cincinnati Lab Theater. Each episode, we will explore different topics regarding theater, featuring lab company members and special guest artists. Enjoy. Welcome to the final episode of Season 1 of the Lab Report. I'm your host, Tori Pate. In this episode, we talk about what it's like to perform and produce a show at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Enjoy. Let's get to some introductions. First, we have Jason Podpletsky, who is the playwright of Lead Thespian. We have Mary Berenger, who's the playwright of Four Horses. Eric Kilpatrick, who is a lab company member and cast member of Lead Thespian and Four Horses. Alexa Glazer, Cincinnati Lab member and cast member of Four Horses. Elizabeth Harris, who is the executive director and co-artistic director of Lab, and she was a cast member of Lead Thespian. And Bob Allen, who is a co-artistic director of Cincinnati Lab and cast member of Lead Thespian and Four Horses. Welcome, everyone. So good to see you all.
And Tori Pate, who is also a lab member and a cast member of Four Horses and Lead Thespian.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, for those of you who have seen previous episodes, I am usually just the host. Tonight, I'm going to participate a little more because I am a part of both of these Fringe productions. So enjoy a slightly different format for this evening. My first question, though, for people who don't know, who would like to explain what the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is?
The Edinburgh Fringe Festival is the largest international performing arts festival in the world. And the way it came about, there was an artist festival happening in Edinburgh, and only certain people were allowed to participate. And people of the community didn't like that. And so they started their own festival where anybody could participate. And it has grown into this really large, massive thing. There's visual art, there's music, there's stand-up comedy, there's theater, there's dance, there's puppetry. There's so many just street performers, people rent spaces. It goes for an entire month. And performances will go into the night, like into, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So it's a very, very exciting festival.
I think I read about the Edinburgh Festival that it's the third largest ticketed event in the world, behind only the World Cup and the Olympics. So that means those are the only two things that they sell more tickets to, than the Edinburgh Festival. It's that big of a deal. That many people go.
They say that the population of Edinburgh triples in the month of August because of so many travelers coming to see the festival.
Yeah, when we were there last time, I was there before everyone else got there on a family vacation, and just watching the numbers increase the week I was there before the festival started, it was just amazing. It was like this cute little small town, and then all of a sudden it was just more people every single day. It was so surreal.
And artists that perform and participate in the Fringe, they will move to Edinburgh for, a month or two, just to be there and live there to perform and promote their show.
Elizabeth and Bob, as artistic directors for Lab, where did the idea to take a show to Lab come from? Because we went in 2018, and that was the first time we had ever gone. So where did this idea come from, and why Edinburgh? I mean, Cincinnati's got a great Fringe festival too, and plenty of other cities have great Fringe festivals. So why Edinburgh?
And the short answer to that is it happened over dinner. Elizabeth
happened before that, because Jason said, wouldn't it be fun to take this to Edinburgh? Oh, well.
Yeah.
And
Well, I would call that the seed to the tree, and then over dinner the tree grew.
yeah,
With Elizabeth, Bryan, and I were having dinner to discuss actually, what's next for lab theater, and then Elizabeth said, Jason said, and we were all like, why not? And then
Yeah.
Elizabeth talked us into it.
I did. Well, and I felt like, I don't know, Cincinnati has a great Fringe festival, don't get me wrong, but I really thought taking Let Thespian to Scotland was an opportunity for the theater, but as well as an opportunity for Jason, because we're a developmental theater company. We develop new works. That's what we do. And so us taking a show a step further outside of here to an international audience is a way to help develop the piece even further. We're able to see, how does our show land with international audiences? I thought that was an interesting thing that happened, actually. How is there a way that we can promote this show to a wider audience just than here in Ohio or here in the United States? And I also thought, Scotland's fun. If we're going to go to a Fringe festival, not that Cincinnati's not fun, but Edinburgh is really cool. Let's go to Scotland.
Well, we all have participated in the Cincinnati Fringe Festival, and some of us multiple times. As we were talking that evening over dinner, it just, something about Lead Thespian just said, go to Scotland. It seemed like it was the right play at the right time in our development as a company, and that Scotland was the right choice for that particular production.
That leads me into my next question. So that's how you chose Lead Thespian. How did Four Horses end up on the slate to go to Scotland?
It was kind of the same thing. It was, Mary's Four Horses was our staged reading that we had done. And I think was it 2018? Maybe?
Yeah.
17, 18, something.
Yeah. And it's such a fun, quirky little piece. And then after being in Scotland, this was the other thing that I think was really beneficial for us as a company, is we got to go and see all kinds of different things, right? See what else people are producing. And we realized that Four Horses would actually fit perfectly in that Edinburgh Fringe spot, right? Because it's this fun, quirky little piece, and it's will travel easily. And then Mary was so fantastic to work with that, we were like, can we take her to Scotland too?
Yay. I'm going to start with the performers this time. What was it like to perform internationally?
Well, I'll start because my story's short.
You got cast when we were in Scotland, I think, right?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Suddenly at one of our rehearsals, Jason said, "Oh, we need someone to announce at the end." And everybody looked at me and I'm like, okay. The problem I had was that Jason also thought that it should be a Scot. So here I am doing my best Scot accent in Scotland, surrounded by the real thing, terrified that I would blow it somehow. But they were very gracious afterwards and said, "Oh, your Scottish accent is not bad."
It's definitely exciting. Maybe I'm weird in this aspect, but like I can never enjoy anything when I'm in a show, the day of the show at least. I can't enjoy food. I can't enjoy conversation. I'm always distracted thinking about the show, the performance. There's only a very small window of time where I actually I'm not thinking and worrying about the show, and that's when I'm on stage, or that's a very brief 2-hour window afterwards when we're all at the bar celebrating and enjoying each other's company and talking about the nice performance. So there was a part of me that was just never comfortable in Scotland. You know, we had such a late night performance. I think our performance time was right around 10 o'clock at night. So it was the same kind of thing. Like all day I'd be thinking about the performance, where my fiance who was with me, she'd want to travel around and see Scotland, rightfully so. And I'd be like, I think I'm just going to stay here and practice, read my lines, practice my guitar. So I was never really able to get totally comfortable until the show was wrapped. And then after that, you know, I was really able to go and enjoy Scotland. But I think that the thing that impressed me just the most, because I had never really participated in anything like that before, never a festival. I don't think I ever even traveled with a show before. But just the camaraderie, like the encouragement, the enthusiasm in the other performers that you met. You know, it didn't feel competitive at all. It felt very supportive. People were legitimately excited to see what you were bringing to the table, to hear about your show, and to even and come and see your show and support the other performers. So that was probably the most exciting thing. Is in my mind, you know, not knowing what to expect. I thought maybe it might be a little bit, you know, competitive, or a little you know, there might be, you know, people would kind of give you the side eye. If you have something good to show, they're gonna walk out pissed off because you had a really good performance. Instead, it was the opposite. People like, that was a great show. Now come and see my show over here. So just that the support from performers and artists all over the world was it was so awesome. It was so awesome.
I agree. I loved the support aspect of it. I loved when we were at the bar in the evening and you would see other performers and they'd be like, oh, we saw your show, or we'd be like, oh, we saw your show, and we'd talk about things. And it was so nice to be able to converse with all of these different performers from all over the place. And you know, and sometimes they'd be surprised that we were Americans or different things. They're like, oh, okay. And sometimes they'd even be like, oh, I know where Cincinnati is. I was like, really? Nice. I do remember the first time we went to our venue and we were like, oh, this is interesting. But it was fun and quirky, and, you know, there were fly zappers backstage that made noise.
I'd forgotten about those.
And you were like, what's that? Oh.
Didn't we?
And you had to get used to that.
Halfway across Edinburgh, that steel table the first day. Remember, we had to keep like carrying the table. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that was really fun was that at the same time I was there with Lab, I had also brought a group of high school students who were also performing in the Fringe for with St. X High School. We were sharing props. And so their show needed a table and our show needed a table. So I went to IKEA in Scotland and bought a table. And this little metal table we shared. So that for the first couple performances, we had to share this table. So their venue wasn't too far away from ours, but we still had to truck this thing back and forth. And that's what it reminded me of, really. It reminded me of being on tour back in the days when I was on tour, and you go into a new space and you just have to adapt and you move on and you deal with it. And everybody at our venue, everybody I dealt with in the Fringe period were just amazing. They were kind and helpful and warm and generous. And, you know, it was like, we're all this big team putting on theater, right? And there's thousands of us doing it. And so that has to be one of the best parts of the experience for me, is just how wonderful the Fringe, you know, administrators were. They're just incredible. And there was this one performance where one of the, I think he's like the managing director for our venue. He came to see our show and he left, I think, I don't know, part way into it, scene 2 or 3, I don't remember. And then I saw him the next day because I had to get the payout, and he was like, "Oh, your show was fine. I left. It's not my thing, but it was fine." And he was just so cheerful and nice about apologizing that he didn't want to watch the show, and there was nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't his thing. So that's just an example of how nice they were.
So Jason, and then Mary, I'll let you answer too. What was it like to have your show produced internationally?
I mean, it's pretty amazing, right? I mean, this was one of those, the show just kept changing and growing. It was, it was weird because we had to adapt some things from the American version to Scotland. The sort of the crisis moment in the play involves a BB gun that they think is a real gun that we just couldn't, you just can't, they just don't let you do that in England. There just aren't Dick's Sporting Goods that sell BB guns. It's just culturally not that. And we looked into like what it would take to get a BB gun, and we had to like call Scotland Yard, and it was ridiculous, just ridiculous. So we ended up having to kind of rewrite that. I always felt like the play was, being tweaked, right? The music kept changing, but I think that's what I love the most about it. I mean, I think that the ultimate experience, I think now that this play, when you read the front cover, it has performed at Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It changes the way people look at it. It really, really does. They wouldn't, if it said performed at Cincinnati Fringe Festival, it wouldn't have this, it almost, you hate to say this, but it almost sort of, they're like, oh, really? Like it elevates it some way, or it makes it, it states it has it. I love it because the second you read that, you go, oh, okay, this is going to be weird or edgy or irreverent or something like that. You know what I mean? But I love the play that I came back with from Scotland is terrific. And I don't think it would be had it not been, because we had to trim like 20 minutes out of it to make it fit the 50-minute slot. And then we were always tweaking music with that thing because it wasn't just a play, it was kind of a musical too. And then we were busking on the street. So we would find things playing on the street that Eric and I'd be like, oh no, that's better. Let's put that in. So it was always this amoeba of a play. But the version I have now with, sort of the streamline and, sort of taking something out and realizing what it did and being able to put it back together again, it's invaluable. I mean, the play is so much better now because of that experience it went through in Edinburgh. It really did. You know what I mean? Just the music, all of that kind of stuff. It's a better piece. It's tighter, it's stronger, and the BB gun's back in it. So it's, but no, really, I mean, think about it. It was, now I had that 50, now I have like a 60-minute version with all of the things. So it's really, it really has benefited from that experience. But it was a terrific experience artistically, you know what I mean? It was, because I got to be more than just a playwright. I got to run the board, you know what I mean? So I saw every show. I could feel the vibe backstage. It was very hands-on to be a playwright and kind of be a crew member as well. So it was really a great experience. I mean, the camaraderie was terrific. It was like being on tour with everybody. It was really, I think I would have felt weird if I was a playwright and you guys all had to leave every night. And you know what I mean? It was lovely being able to go to the place and, experience firsthand what you meant with flies, and all of that stuff. It was great. You know what I mean? And you're right. The people in the venue and everything, you couldn't have asked for a more positive experience. But the play really improved because of that international experience. It really did. It hurts when people walk out of your play, right? It's like, why did that guy leave? But now I really, I had such a better understanding of what that piece was and is when we came back from Scotland. I think I was still trying to figure it out because it changed. I mean, you guys know, you were in it. It kept changing. It kept changing all the time.
I think I have in my office upstairs, Jason, I think I have at least 7 different drafts of the script from like all the way back in 2014 and all the little the shapes it's taken. all the way
Writing
up
is
until
rewriting.
Fringe.
It is. But that thing really went through some, oh my God. If you go back and read, I don't even recognize some of the early versions of that. You know what I mean? It really has changed. From that reading we had in your living room, what, like 5 or 6 years ago, to,
Mhm.
you know, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. That's how long some of us had been on that. At least the three of us here had been
Yeah.
on that play. You know what I mean? Forever. So, but no, it was a nothing but a positive artistic experience all around for it. I hope you have the same experience, Mary. I really do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I can't speak to what it feels like to be there yet, but just already I can agree with Jason that the recognition that Edinburgh brings, like people that I show the script to now, they say, "Well, have you had it produced?" And I'm like, "Well, we did a reading and it was going to go to Edinburgh in 2020." And they're like, "Oh, Edinburgh." I'm like, "Oh, yes." And of course, just already the workshopping that we did in 2020, and I think already in 2019 we were already reading it and working on it, and I was almost thankful that I got that break. We didn't go that August, because that August was when I rewrote it again, and I think there's an even newer version that we will see when we actually take to Edinburgh that is hopefully even better and even sparklier. But that's all Lab's process, the way you guys work with the playwrights, which is so amazing.
The cachet of having produced your work in Edinburgh, and for us as well as a theater company taking your works to Edinburgh, does, as Jason said, it elevates the way people look at you, look at your work, and of course look at us as a producing company. I think it has had a little bit of influence on the fact that we are now receiving international scripts when we put out our call for scripts. We did a reading of a play from Paris this past fall. So yeah, it is a great thing, and I'm looking forward to Mary's work being there.
Yeah, and with the Edinburgh Fringe, you do not have to be chosen. It's not like a board looks at your work and says, okay, you can come. That's not how it works at all.
Right.
You find a venue and you show the venue what you are going to do. You don't even have to submit your script to the venue. You just give them a short description and they will tell you whether they have a spot for you or not. And so it sounds easy, but it's not. And I think that's the trick, is that it's a lot of hard work and a lot of planning to take a show internationally, and specifically to the Fringe. They give you gads of help, but you have to be on the ground promoting your own show. You have to do all kinds of things to promote your own show. You're the one who has to do all the legwork, like me going to IKEA to find a table, right? Getting our postcards and lugging those, from the print shop to our hotel. So it's a lot of work. So it's not like it's, even though there's not somebody that says, oh yay, check, you're accepted, you still have to make it work. You can't just plop into Scotland and grow a flower, because that's not how it works.
I think that's one of the things I was most proud of. We never had to cancel a show. I mean, and a lot of other people in our venue around us, especially at the 10 o'clock slot,
Yeah.
right? I mean, people at the 8, 9 o'clock slot were canceling because they didn't have any audience members. We always had at least 5 or 6 people. Sometimes we had like 20, 30, you know what I mean? It was,
Yeah.
but that is the thing. You got to go on the street. I mean, I think having the guitars and being able to sing and busk kind of really helped promote our show, you know what I mean? And being up there at that Greyfriars Bobby at that intersection,
Yep.
everybody in the world goes past that. But I think that is the hardest thing about it is, I think to Eric's point, the thing I would say, is I got to the point where I went to see everybody who was performing at Paradise Green. And when I would tell them what a good job they did, I would pitch our show. And I think most of our audience came from scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, because everyone knows that fear of, we don't have an audience. You know what I mean? There's a million people out there and there's no one in this theater. It really is that sort of water everywhere thing. But yeah, getting people in the seats and just camaraderie and making friends and,
It was nice that we had an actual theater to perform in too, which is great. Thank you, Liz, for getting us an actual, perform like a theater, because we went to see shows in bars and like the corner of some hotel room. You know, that's one of the amazing things that I loved about it was you never knew what venue you were going to and how they were going to squeeze the audience in there. So I think having a Paradise Green and, you know, a reputable theater worked to our advantage as well. People knew that they're going to come there to see.
You go into the restroom and there's a stand-up comedian performing. It's like, oh my god, acts are everywhere.
I don't remember the exact number, but it's some crazy number, like I don't know, 30,000 shows in a month, because they're going once an hour, every hour from about 8 in the morning until 1 or 2 at night every day. That's a lot of shows when you multiply that by how many venues, 100 venues. That's a lot of shows in a single day. It's just absolutely overwhelming and amazing. And you're right, they're everywhere, shows everywhere. Jason, we saw a show in the hotel ballroom, which, you know, it was fine, but and then of course the late night bar shows that were happening everywhere. The energy in the city during that period is amazing. The city just vibrates with artistic energy and theatrical energy. I just can't think of a better word. But it does. The city vibrates because it's everywhere, and every kind of performance you can imagine, from living statues to, finally, after 3 days there, I did see a guy in a kilt playing bagpipes. Yeah, I was disappointed.
See that all the time.
Yeah, I'm in Scotland. Where's the bagpipes? And finally, but yeah, I mean, there were people walking down the streets on stilts. There were performances of puppet theater happening on the street. Just every kind of theatrical performance you can imagine. It's sort of like theater heaven.
So for those of us who are planning to go this year, what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, so if we go, we're looking forward to participating. We're going to film it in case we can't go. So I'm really excited to like see the new script that Mary has written and get to work with all of you to produce it. And I'm really excited to be able to see how it's grown and where it kind of goes, being able to be in person, safely distanced and performing, and just kind of have that ensemble feeling again, and working with others and collaborating to take something really special and like get to have a special experience with it. So I'm just really excited to take part in it, because I've never been a part of Cincy Fringe Festival as a performer, and or any Fringe festival. So to get to actually go to Scotland and perform at a Fringe festival and get to see all these amazing shows is very exciting. So
one thing that you know, I think Mary and Jason are just such phenomenal playwrights, and I'm thrilled about Four Horses. I can't wait to read the newest draft, Mary, because it's just such a great play. And when we went over in 2018 with Jason's show, it kind of felt like, you know, we're traveling into this unknown world with a nice little secret, you know, that we're about to share. We got this great little play that nobody's ever seen before, and we're going to go and share the secret in a new space that we don't know anything about, and we don't know how it's going to be received. And there's something really just exciting about that, about believing in your piece so much that you travel across the world to get there and to share it with people.
I'm really excited to be able to be back doing theater. I'm one of the directors of theater for our St. Xavier High School. And so we just did our first live performance of something, right? Since we got shut down last spring, we were on the verge of tech for Fiddler on the Roof. And so even this fall, we kind of pivoted and we did a short film instead of doing a stage production. And so we just closed 1776, and it was so exciting. Even though our house was limited capacity, it was still so exciting to be back in person, sharing that experience with a live audience. And even though probably if we get to go, the capacity in Scotland will be smaller than what it was last time, just that energy of human connection, that face-to-face energy of performing live for an audience. I am just so pumped about that. I can't wait.
I would have to say that's the same for me, that I just want to perform for live people. And as nice as it's been to be able to do, plenty of stuff online. I mean, we've done so many shows via Zoom this year, and I've been teaching mostly through Zoom, and you get used to it and all that, but just to be able to have that audience feedback and to know that they're connected to what you're doing on the stage. And that was one thing that I noticed when we were there the first time, was that even if it was only 5 people, they were very invested in what we were doing. Like, they wanted to know what we were bringing to the table and how they could support us through that. So it was such a wonderful experience, and I truly hope we get to go again.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
I did-
excited also just to start doing live theater again, to be around my people again. We're so distant right now. It hurts so much. But also, this will be the first time that Four Horses has ever been on its feet. We've done a few little Zoom, or I've done a Zoom reading this summer, and we did our staged reading, but just like, I want to see it on its feet, because there's like so much that I want to see actually acted out, and also to get all that feedback, that juicy feedback. I want it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to jump on that same bandwagon. I think all of us as stage performers, we have this connection to our audiences and the kind of instantaneous feedback we get, and it's something that is an important part of what we do as stage actors. I did a film this fall that's going to be shown or streamed in the Cincinnati Fringe Festival, but it's just not the same. It's just not. That having that audience out there, and like Tori said, even if it's 5 people, they're there to see what you're going to do. They're there for you. I think it's even amplified in Scotland because there is so much available. So when somebody shows up for your show, they're really interested in what you're going to present. And I'm looking forward I'm actually looking forward to being able to go see more shows this time than I did last time. I was a bit naively kerfuffled. I wouldn't have survived in Scotland if it hadn't been for Tori holding my hand and dragging me around. But I don't think I didn't go to see as many shows as I think I could have, and so I'm looking forward to that.
So, Elizabeth, what was it like to try to schedule all of this? And knowing what you know now, what have you done differently this time around, or what do you wish you could do differently with the scheduling process of this all?
Well, as far as the scheduling, I mean, the tricky part is just making sure everybody gets there before you even, say boo. You are locked into these dates, right, with your venue and with the Fringe, and you're just like set. So then the tricky part is getting everybody there and make sure everybody can find where they're supposed to be, right? That's the tricky part. And then once everybody has that set and we're all like knowing where we're going and what time we're supposed to be there and all that kind of stuff, that's fine. That's cool. So then it's okay. But then one of the other things you have to do to promote your show is you have to reach out and find different places where you can like do a short little act, or like we did, busking out on the street. And I can't remember the name of the department store, but we got a slot with this big department store outside their front window to perform. And so it's a lot of, finding time, what's the right time to go out and hand out postcards and say, come see our show, right? And so that was kind of tricky, trying to find that time slot. When do you want to grab people? When are they going to remember you? Then the other thing is just marketing, right? Like the timing of the marketing, as far as when do you send in a press release? Who do you send it to? How many people do you send it to? I had no idea. This is something I will change. I had no idea how soon we had to send in press releases to get people to come in to see us. We sent our press release in way too late. So we didn't actually get any press from somebody coming in and writing an article about us or anything like that, because I sent it in way too late. So that's something that I will definitely change this time around. And I think I've learned a lot of things about like where can we do marketing? How can we get more free marketing? How can we get more inexpensive marketing? Stuff like that. So
And hats
Is it
off
too
to
late
Liz, because she did all that work for 2 separate shows, not just Let Thespian. She was out there with Saint X as well. So you had twice the work for you.
yeah, I did. Now, luckily, St. X had fewer performances than we did. But yeah, I was working 2 companies at once.
Is it too late to add a guitar solo to Four Horses? That's my question. It sounds like the guitar is key.
It's never too late.
Never too late for guitar.
Yeah.
For everyone, how do you think this has benefited you? I mean, I know Jason and Mary have touched on it a little bit, but how has this benefited you as a playwright or as a performer or as an artistic director throughout the rest of your career?
I think there's certainly, as somebody touched on it early on, I think in the conversation, that there's a little extra clout, when whether you're a performer or you're a writer or a director, being like, yeah, I did this at the Fringe in Scotland, there's a little brush the dirt off my shoulder. So I think that there's a little bit of that, and then also the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And then just traveling across overseas and stepping into the unknown and just being prepared again with a great show ready to share. I definitely went out there with a lot of nerves, but I thought it went so well. And I just had such a great time traveling with you guys and working with you guys, and then making new friends too. It's just I can't say anything negative about it. I think I just walked away with nothing but positive experiences that just are going to help me doing this in the future.
I love that you said actually into the unknown, because that was the theme for 2018's Fringe.
Oh my God.
It was on the t-shirts. It was 2018 Fringe, Into the Unknown. And then the weird pigeons that were everywhere.
I'd forgotten about the pigeons.
Yeah, me too.
Because you'd look up at like one of the venues and there would be like this pigeon, like that was, painted gold or painted rainbow colored. It was kind of like the pigs all around Cincinnati, but these random pigeons on buildings. You're like, what's going on? And it took, I think we were there. It was probably like 3 days before we left before I figured out what the pigeons were about. And I'm like, I've been here for almost 2 weeks now. No idea.
Well, for me, personally, what it means to me or has meant to me is seeing the universality of what I do, of the theatrical art form. It's like it is an international community. It's huge, and everybody's from all over the world, from whatever country they are from, large or small, are there with the same heart for their work and for putting themselves in front of an audience and telling their stories. And it just really brought that home to me. It's like theater is theater wherever you go.
Yeah. And I think for me, I'm a dreamer. Like I dream of all these big, great ideas, right? But then I'm also very grounded too. I'm like, okay, so how do I plan this? How do I do this? Right. And So a lot of times I'm like, well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And what I loved and what I learned is that all of you that went with me, you wanted the same thing that I wanted. And it was so amazing to be in that kind of company of collaboration, of ensemble. And then we all wanted that together, and we were all amazingly committed to it. And then when we got there, we even saw other artists, like Bob was talking about, that were doing the same exact thing, that were dreaming the same dreams and wanting the same things as we did. So learning this, that there's this larger artistic collaborative community is actually very inspiring, because you look at the world and you're like, yeah, this sucks. But then you think about that and you're like, okay, no, there's some good positive stuff. Let's go get that. Let's go get that positive stuff. And I want to bring that kind of energy back here to Cincinnati, to Lab, and to keep that going with us here, even though, we had to skip out last year, and we're crossing our fingers this year, but that we bring that energy back here and keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, the whole experience was nothing but a positive for me. And I mean, like I said, I mean, I talked about it earlier. I have this really great play because of this process that we all went through. But I think, just in the general, just that experience, there's a couple of things, out there, like credits that you have, that when you audition for something or go to a meeting or an interview, that people talk about, right? And and the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is one of them, man. If you are in an interview with someone who's also been there, it comes up. They're like, oh, what year were you there? And all of these same kind of things. And it's almost like a rite of passage. It's a merit badge of sorts. You know what I mean? I'm proud to have done it, right? I mean, it is, it is this. I think we all got better because of that experience. I'm jealous that I don't get to, that you guys are going again. It'll make you better. It's one of the, but it's hard, right? It's sort of better by, whatever that sort of melting of steel is that changes it to something else, kind of better. But it is, it is that thing. Yeah, it's terrific. It's a terrific experience. And like I say, it's come up a couple of times in interviews. Oh, what year were you there? Oh, what did you do? It's one of those things that, if you've done it, you'll always remember it. It's really great.
So even though I didn't go physically to Scotland with all of you, I got to participate here at home. People were sending me photos. I was a part of creating the postcards, and Elizabeth and I had a really fun time trying to figure out how to get them approved to the right size. We had all these issues, and I think it really benefited me getting to see Elizabeth go through all these stages and being in the meetings, and then helping to market from home, using our social media platforms and our website. I think it really taught me about how the planning of the future for Lab and what I want us to accomplish for marketing this time, and the steps that need to be taken to go to a festival like this. And so I think it really was amazing to see all of you having so much fun, and all the great things that came out of you going and getting to be a part of that happiness, even though I wasn't there, and to be able to be hopeful for that happiness for the future, and have plans made to make sure that we have postcards easier, and just all the social media posts ready to go and things like that.
We're using a different printer this time. We're using a different printer.
I mean, I think the key is just, how all those people kept looking at those magazines and those couple of resources about whoever tells you what to go and see. It just seemed like so many people would go to those, whatever they were, those Fringe guides or whatever. And if you can get into one of those, I think it's because everyone walks around and what do I go see? There's so many choices, but that's the challenge of it. That's what makes it fun and great and everything.
Oh yeah, I remember because we had one of the big thick Fringe guides in our kitchen, and I remember I think there was one day that I think it was Bob and I just opened it and stuck our finger on something. We're like, that's what we're gonna go see.
Yeah, it's
They had like, their Edinburgh version of the City Beat or whatever it was, you know what I mean? And someone in there said, these are the top 5 shows of the first week or whatever they were. They would rate them, and even like, 5, 4, 3, even if you got like 3 stars, people would go, there's so much competition. Like the thing that makes it great also makes it kind of like, to get people in there. It's amazing. But like I said, I think that we would all agree that we had the best success was going to other people's shows, striking up a conversation, and giving other artists our flyers. I felt like that was, we probably got more people that way than we did, playing guitar in the street, because compared to the puppet person and the living statue and the life-size Yoda, we just didn't, rack up.
But I'm going to tag back onto what Jason said earlier about people who are saying, oh, yeah, you went to the Fringe Festival. When did you go? One of the experiences I've had is telling someone, yes, we went to the Fringe Festival in 2018, and then I'll mention that, and we were supposed to go in 2020, and they go, oh, you're going again? Like, well, yeah, like, why not? I mean, it surprises me when people like, oh, that they think it might be a one-shot deal. Like, no, we're going again. Oh, and of course, there's the inevitable question: is like, is your cast going? Well, yeah, because if they don't, it's just funny to me that I get that weird question. You're going again? Yeah.
I mean, I would go even if I wasn't in the show, just because I had such a great time going to see shows. And like Bob said, I wish I saw more. Like, I wish I had budgeted time to see more. And I feel like, this time around I could probably do that, because I'm not trying to do all of the first time things too.
Right.
That was part of the reason why my family and I went early, because I was like, well, I can get all of that kind of stuff out of the way first. But I have to say, like, some of the touristy things we did as a group were hysterical and so much fun that, I mean, we may want to do that again. And there's always room for that. But yeah, I think definitely seeing more shows this time around would be high on my list. So fingers crossed that we can.
There's all those other little discoveries, like the Harry Potter bar. Like, oh my God, this whole bar is dedicated to Harry Potter, but it's a bar.
I think we would all agree that it is worth it to perform internationally. Is it worth the money? Because it is not an inexpensive venture on any level. It's not cheap to produce a show there. It's not inexpensive to get there from here. It's quite expensive to stay there. And anything you want to do, it's not like it's an inexpensive thing to do. So is it worth it?
Yes. Well, for this reason, as Jason said, the growth in his work, the growth of the actors, the new perspectives you gain on the world, the international world of theater, all of that makes it worth it. And then that's all beyond just the cachet when you come back home and say, oh yes, I was in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's a growth place for artists, I believe. I will confess that I am guilty, since having been there, of telling all the students I have at NKU who are in theater that find the money, beg it, borrow it, steal it, but go at least once. Just go. If you can't be in a show to go on your own, because the experience will be hugely growth promoting for you as a theater artist.
As the executive director of a company, I had to ask myself the question, okay, this is how much money we're going to be shelling out as a company, right? Number one, where are we going to get that money? And then number two, is it going to be worth it for our company to do that? Luckily, we did a lot of things to raise money. We did a GoFundMe to help offset the cost for the artists. We also got a grant to pay for our rental for our venue as well as our registration in the Fringe, which are both, not inexpensive. We were able to share some expenses like, the little table, like some of our props, because we borrow props or we shared props with St. X. So, there are lots of ways you can offset the cost. You just have to be creative and you have to get out and do it. But as far as, in the long run, is it worth it? Even though we didn't come out above, right? If you look strictly the numbers, Lab came out in the red, right? We lost money. We made ticket sales, but in the long run, we lost money. But I think you have to look at your value in something larger than money. It's a hugely valuable experience for the company to go because it allows the company to grow. It allows our artists to grow. It allows us to get, we're mixed in with thousands of other artists, but it gives us some cred, right? Because we've been there, we did it, we worked, and we're going again. So those things are just as valuable as money. So from that point of view, and personally as an artist, yes, I would say 100% it's worth it.
To wrap up, what I want all of you to do is tell me in 1 or 2 words, define the Edinburgh Fringe for me in just 1 or 2 words off the top of your head.
Adventure.
Opportunity.
Adventure.
Global camaraderie.
Ooh.
Ensemble, creativity, eccentricity.
There is that.
You guys took my words.
Yeah.
What was your word, Alexa?
Growth. And I was also going to say community. Like a community as our company, but then also like the worldwide community of theater.
I'd have to say exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. Visibility.
Visibility, that's a good one. All right.
Crowded.
Yeah.
It was crowded. It did get crowded, didn't
Oh, yes. So crowded.
Especially kind of crowded. Like so crowded that you couldn't even care about it being crowded. It was like past
True.
it's just like, wow, this is a whole different kind of crowded.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. You didn't care, and it was just but it was jam packed with people, and I was fortunately, I could, being as tall as I am, I was always able to see the top of Tori's head.
And Tori was our tour guide. Thank
Yes.
you again, Tori. Again, getting there 2 weeks or a week early. She knew all the spots. She knew how to get us everywhere. So thank God. Bring a Tori with you, everyone. If you go to
Yeah, everybody should have a Tori.
Find a Tori.
All right, everyone. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Jason and Mary, Eric,
Yes.
Alexa, Elizabeth, and Bob for joining me this evening. It has been a wonderful little trip down memory lane, and hopefully we'll see you all real soon from Scotland. Good night, everyone, and thank you for watching.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.